This is AV SuperFriends On Topic, a 30-minute monthly roundtable focused on a single topic. This discussion will be opinionated, to the point, and saturated with our well-known blend of painfully won expertise and deeply ingrained immaturity. For February 2022, it's the AV SuperFriends On Topic. Welcome back, everybody. Time for another Friday afternoon podcast adventure in the winter wonderland that is January of 2022. My name is Chris Dechter. I'm joined today by Mark, Jamie, Justin, and Larry.
Yo.
Hey. And on today's show, we're going to discuss the spring HETMA conference because you all need to stop what you're doing. Stop this recording right now. Go log in, register for the HETMA conference. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about ISE and some news related to that. And the changing landscape of trade shows and conferences. But first, Mark, you said you had something you found you wanted to discuss today.
Yeah, so I was cruising around, just kind of digging around in the newspapers, the old analog newspapers that show up at my neighbor's. I go steal it out of his driveway every morning, and I was reading it.
He only gets it for the sports. Don't worry about it.
I thought he was buying it for me, but he's doing a good job of it.
You've been taking his newspaper for years.
Yeah, I typically read it from back to front. And I start
in reverse.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, so that's for everything.
But I leave them all the coupons.
Yeah, well, I take what I need, and then he's kind enough to. I don't have to throw it away. He takes it and recycles it, so it works out. So, but I came, reading the obituaries, right? I kind of looked in there, and I like to keep track of kind of the daily caseload counts of who's still standing in our zip code, and the numbers are swelling. I just kind of see, but I did come across this oddball obituary. And since, look around the table here, we all know the person who can read this the best is probably Chris. I'm going to hand this to you because I want you to read this for our listeners because I feel like it's timely. Of all the obituaries I've come across in the last couple of months, and there's a lot of somberness out there in this world, but I felt like this one was the most, it touched home here. So I feel like it's important for us to bring it up on the show. And Chris, go ahead. Why don't you
It's
read
the
this
one
for
right
us?
under Ethel.
Yeah.
National Industry Trade Show shuffled off this mortal coil sometime during the summer of 2022. His bloated, festering corpse was found in the hot tub of a Las Vegas hotel corporate suite during a wellness check after he had not been seen at any convention centers or expo halls for over a year. National Industry Trade Show, or Natty Trades as he was known to his friends, was born in the 13th century during the era of European merchant capitalism and attended the Frankfurt School mid-career. A connoisseur of cheap drink tickets, fresh carpet, and union labor, Natty Trades was known for his business acumen, his massive Rolodex, and his high tolerance for alcohol. While a titan in his day, in recent years, Natty Trades suffered from the illness bad website-itis and never fully recovered. He is survived by his common law life partner, annual academic conference, or ANCON to her friends, and their children, informational webinar, and regional exposition. Funeral services will be held in the parking lot behind the world-famous Backroom Deals Exotic Lounge sometime between last call and the sunrise garbage pickup. Natty Trades will then be interred in a shallow grave several miles outside of Henderson, Nevada. In lieu of flowers, the family asked that donations be sent to the Best Price Swag and Stuff Association in honor of the deceased.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Yeah, so I thought that was surprising to see that in newspaper written so well. And I was like, my small regional paper did a really good job. And I felt like our listeners deserved to hear that because it was really important. So
I'm really sad.
Steal your neighbor's newspapers and read those obituaries.
That was sad.
Yeah.
Now I'm sad. Yeah. Right before the weekend, I'm all depressed.
So I think that one is
take a break to regroup from this.
It is prescient, but yeah. So, So we did want to mention a couple other things here, maybe on a slightly more positive note. There's the HETMA Spring conference is coming up. That's going to be next month.
Wait,
no, I take it back.
Is that a trade show?
That is not a trade show. So
it's a conference.
It's
a small
trading
conference.
It's a conference, but it's entirely online. Whoa, it's blowing my mind. So I take it back. The HETMA Spring conference is actually happening this month as you're listening to it. Yeah, so it is February 15, 16, 17, I believe. Let's double check those dates.
Check the web.
15, 16, 17. Go to hetma.org to sign up for that. And the reason we're plugging that is because I think it's a valuable event. But most importantly, we're going to be presenting there.
We will be there.
So there'll be lots of sessions you can attend, lots of manufacturers and people to talk to, lots of fellow higher ed nerds to nerd out about technologies and learning spaces and whatnot. But most importantly, on Tuesday, nope, I got it wrong already. On Thursday, the 17th at 12:30 Eastern, we will be there live presenting a session called, where is it here? Keep It Super and Successful, Metrics of Success of AV in Learning Spaces. So if you want to know, we can all build learning spaces. Are they successful and how do I measure that? We'll talk about that at the HETMA conference.
Be there. It's going to be important. You're going to come interact with us.
And to the question some of you are asking right now, yes, you will get the 5 definitive metrics that Jamie is going to create between now and then.
Yes, because none of us know, but Jamie does.
10 millimeter.
Does it turn
15
on?
millimeter.
Can I see and hear?
Is there light? Is there sound?
That's 2 of them. Don't spoil it. So anyway, we'll talk about metrics of successful AV and learning spaces, hybrid learning spaces, things like that. So HETMA conference, hetma.org. Sign up for that as you're listening to this right now. If you're listening to this after February 17th, you missed it. I'm sure there'll be recordings available.
Check back.
All right. So we just had that sad moment there of trade show news, and of course that's fictional, obviously, because nobody is named Natty Trades.
What? No,
but
it was in the paper, Chris.
It might
Reason
be.
the paper.
We don't know. I mean, there could be somebody out there.
printed.
Like that.
There may be.
Yeah, probably so.
But it was written deliberately because we see trade shows increasingly becoming, maybe less relevant. I don't know if this is the right term, but they're
Less populated. Less populated.
Certainly
Well,
less
that's not
populated
changing.
now. Yeah.
So, which brings us to this month's AV related news, and we're not going to belabor this or anything. And I think many of you, as you're listening to this, already know about it. But so ISE came out and announced, well, we're postponing until May again, just like they did last year. And if those of you from will pay attention last year, ISE is a massive trade show, usually over 100,000 people, sort of thing. And in the last 2 years, obviously not. But when they postponed, it was a much, much, much smaller event. And then they tried to split into little events. And it just, I think a lot of people said it didn't really go well. So do you guys have any thoughts on what this means, what this precipitates for other trade shows if ISE, which is a monster trade show, if they're throwing in the towel at this point?
I think if you're planning on going to one of these trade shows, you might want to buy the travel insurance on your ticket to make sure.
Absolutely.
And only go to trade shows that are at places you actually want to go to anyway.
And I think just I think even the news and the pictures from the fellow nerds that went to like CES and such in the last month or so, I think we are seeing that there is still a lasting impact of travel and not just the attendees, but the presenters as well. I think it really ISC is a weird thing. It's so complicated when you start having all the national boundaries and everything else.
Yeah.
At least a lot of the, on the state side, we don't have those extra levels of you got to get through them, restrictions and such. So it does overcomplicate it there, but I'm not surprised by the news, and I won't be surprised if in April we're not seeing some of the same things. And as our tongue in cheek, it's only funny because it might be true. Obituary was, I think we may start seeing NAB directional. We may start seeing those things more often, Infocom directional, north, south, east, west. Not the Midwest because we're flyover country, but everywhere else.
Because you're in the middle and there's no direction for that.
Yeah.
They're like, go to Chicago. I don't like Chicago. Then go to Dallas. Oh, even worse.
Yeah.
Now we just lost all those listeners. So I'm sorry folks. It's just a guy from KC additional, right? That's it.
Yeah, I'll be honest. For, the past 6, 7, 8 years, at first when I would go to Infocom, I've never been to ISE. It was about the show floor and it was about the shiny objects. But as I learned about what the AV industry is, then it became more about the education and the relationships and the colleagues and learning from everybody and basically developing what we have here. And on average, past 3 or 4 or 5 years, I spent maybe 2 to 3 hours on the show floor looking at stuff. And I know that varies, but I wonder how many more people like me are out there that value different things than the show floor that these regional conferences can really, hit home on.
Do you think this is also just a sidestep of technology too? Like it
can,
is so much easier for us right now, right? We're all over this country. We're in every time zone.
Yep.
And yet twice a week,
Some of us
we
are
all
in
get
2 time
together
zones.
and we BS and we can, Joe joins us sometimes. We get all these people from all over and we just all get together. And so some of that camaraderie that we used to, I only saw Justin every June when we all went to Orlando and we go get drinks. And that's not the case anymore. I see him twice a week.
Unfortunately for you, Jamie.
It's worn off, huh?
Now I have
The
to have
nostalgia
the drink
is gone for Jamie
now
and
I have to have a drink before I get on.
Sorry, guys. Bringing the group down.
I wonder if that's part of it too. I mean, we've seen this even in our personal lives too, is you're not as apt to just go hang out with the neighbors because after all, you can just get on your cell phone in your front yard and talk to somebody.
You call your neighbors from your cell phone?
Yeah, you talk to your neighbors.
Let me call you.
I know.
Well, I will say
Weird,
Mark's
huh?
neighbor keeps showing up. He keeps taking his newspaper.
That's a
I
different
saw you
problem.
out there again, you red
I put a camera out there, you jerk.
I turned it off.
I know. I hacked it, and I have the feed too.
Exactly.
Now I'm using that as well.
Yeah, I just think it's going to change. Maybe for the better, maybe not, but I think it's better. I think it, more regional, personal stuff fits my personality better.
I like the main ones only because I can go there and meet with everybody. I feel like these little regional shows.
Yeah, but do you have time to do that?
It's easier for me to say, okay, this week I'm gone versus, okay, I've got to go here for a couple of days, there a couple of days, here a couple of days.
Yeah, I will admit multiple regional shows are going to be a pain, Larry. I mean, you're right. I mean, if we have to go to 3 or 4 different shows for 2 days instead of 1 week, that's more costly for us, right? For time and money. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
I think it's ebbing and flowing in real time, and I think people are trying to figure this out. And ISC, I think if you looked back at this time last year, things look more promising for right now. But boy, is that
and it's not just
window.
about, the COVID
True.
stuff. It's about what the manufacturers are seeing for ROI and what they perceive as valuable and the feedback of what they're getting from the customers as valuable, right? And they want to put the money, like you have all these companies now that are building these little rigs and these little mobile units with the show gear. They didn't have that crap 3 years ago. So some of them did, right? But
And man, can you imagine every manufacturer right now is bringing these newfangled gadgets, and it's guaranteed it's all vaporware for a while.
well, we can't buy it.
I mean, that's
right?
just man. This just got to be like, we can't show this off because we can't actually sell it.
Well, Jamie, you raised an interesting point. So when they do demo or even just announce new stuff, it's almost like there's 2 categories. Here's the thing we're working on, and you can have this in a few months. So yeah, here's the thing, and it's unusual for them to say, here's the thing, and you can buy it right now. We have 10,000 of them ready to ship. And you're like, wow, that's worth noting.
I've always
as far
said,
as like,
if you can touch them, they're real. And so if I can't touch them,
except when you
they're
flip it
not
over
real.
on the back, it says manufacturing prototype. So
Yeah, so that's the whole deal. It's like we go there, it's like verifying all the stuff we've read over the past 6 months. Like, oh, look, this thing does exist. This unicorn you said is actually around. It's right here. Yeah, maybe it'd be an empty box, but
I just feel like sometimes it's like the giveaway at a ballpark, right? Like, you can get a Chris Decter bobblehead the first 250
Really?
people.
yeah,
one
we
of
have
those.
That would be awesome.
250
You're telling
people.
me you don't go to the show just to hand out your business card
Oh.
and try to win an iPad? Is that
You
not,
guys
that's not
gave
your
me a
sole
genius
reason for
idea.
going?
Hold on,
I go to buy bobbleheads, apparently.
Bobbleheads for the AVSF.
I get a lot of
team
shirts that I wear when I'm doing like painting and stuff around the house as well.
for
That's where I get my
giveaways.
entire wardrobe.
So we can make bobbleheads. I'm going to
We
work
should
on
make
this.
bobbleheads. That would be
I've got it. I've got it.
Justin's
We're
on
doing
it.
it
We'll have them ready by the time the show is done.
next
The
week.
next trade show, we'll have a whole case of them.
There may or may not be some coffee
Well, okay,
mugs.
so related to that, this is more of a question for Larry, because of the 5 of us, Larry and I were the only 2 who went to trade shows this year. Larry and I both went to, what's that?
Slackers.
Larry and I both went to
virtually.
Infocom, and then we both went to Ed Spaces. So, Larry, question for you: would you have got, or what was, if that was entirely online? Because there are a lot of these online. You can go to a webinar, you can do a regional thing. HETMA's going to do an online conference, but that was deliberate from the very beginning. Was to your point, Jamie, we can't keep traveling around everywhere, but we can just do one of these and everyone can come together. So, Larry, you were at a trade show. I was at a trade show. I found it eminently valuable. What are your thoughts of going to one of these, national or regional, but these big national trade shows? You wait the whole year, you go there, you see people from all over the place, you see manufacturers from everywhere. Would that have been the same if it was a smaller regional one, just down the road and say it was in South Carolina for you or something, or if it was an entirely online? So you're signed up for the same sessions and the visit with the same manufacturers, but what's that difference in experience in 2021? Versus, because that's really our only metric. Is if we would have done that in 2019 or 2018, we'd be like, no, I'm going to be there, so who cares? But
I feel like such a hypocrite, because I make systems that take a physical environment and allow a virtual audience to experience that. And I hate that experience. Like every virtual event outside of HETMA, since we're presenting there, I zone out immediately. I go and do work, and I don't really get anything out of it. Like, it's just not the same.
You need more Adderall. More Adderall.
Probably. I need something. But I
Adderall.
need
less Adderall.
to physically be out of my office, off campus, away, to where I can put an email notification, hey, I won't get back to you for 24 hours or whatever, and go and meet with people and look at products and things that I typically wouldn't do. Like,
you're a visual kinesthetic learner and you're not auditory, Larry. That's exactly what that problem is.
It might be that. I don't know what it
hit
is.
the nail on the head, though, of the student experience, right?
Yes, that's exactly right.
It's not necessarily that you want to have to do all the online stuff. You want the option. You want to have hot dogs and hamburgers.
I don't even care about the option.
It's the flexibility when you need it, but the real life when you really want it.
Yeah, and I really want it all the time, so I got to be there. Which is why I'm very sad about the obituary and these large conferences not happening.
Larry needs it all the time.
But there's the other piece of this, though. What does it mean? Let's drill into the higher education demographic here. There's the admins of the world. Let's remove ourselves the technologists from this. That would anything happen for higher education if there weren't conferences? Not just technology conferences, because like many people, most universities, they won't be first movers, and they will only do something if they go to a conference and their admins learn that some other university has done it first.
And more importantly, that there is a multi-year study based on, here's the white paper of our 5-year study or 3 years of doing this, and here's what we got out of it. You're like, great, we're going to go do the same thing.
Because the grass is always greener somewhere else, and I want to go see it there first, taste their grass, and realize, oh, well, I guess it's as green as ours, but we're going to do it anyway because they did it first. They were first mover, and we don't have to put as much risk into it. So, outside of just the technology piece of this, think about all the conferences that all the admins go to on campuses. If those things weren't happening, what would you say you're going to do moving forward?
I don't know. Think about the possibility
here.
Right.
Think about the possibility of the fact that somebody 4 levels up that should not be making decisions isn't making that particular technology decision, and the people they hire to do the work are doing it.
It's radical.
That's magical.
Wait a minute. So I go to conferences and listen to people, but then I also make those decisions about technology. Am I one of those people? Are you talking about me?
You're getting
maybe.
It might be.
I think
You're working your way up the ladder there, Chris.
2 steps away from being there. When I get there, you guys tell me. Say, hey, stop making decisions. Continue going to conferences, but just don't make the decisions.
Right.
No. When somebody's not telling you, that usually means you're there.
No one here has said they don't like those decisions, which means,
I've made these decisions for years now, and nobody's questioned me.
You're too new.
there.
They're not going to tell you they don't like it, Chris. You're gonna experience that maybe in year 3.
But I
understand what you're saying, Mark. I do.
But I think there's a real piece of this though, like that where it's like it's not all or the other. Like you don't just go to just to go wander the show floor. Like there's other pieces that you go do that are valuable to this, right? And so when I look at if I'm going to go to a conference, like yes, there's things I would like to do, but there's also things I need to do in there, right? And so if I can accomplish the things I need to do without expending a bunch of time and energy elsewise, like that's still valuable. If I can do that online, maybe take a test for some other thing, but then go see these art. There's still value in that piece of it.
I got it. Let's pitch this idea. What if it's not a yearly? What if it's not an annual? What if it's a biannual? What if it's
the bean counters will hate
Olympics?
that. They can't
What
hold
if
like a
it's
2-year budget like that.
Well, I'm just
there
thinking.
was a joke about Infocom being in Vegas and being a biannual event anyway.
So
I don't like that.
Jay, well, for me personally, like if it wasn't for the fact we as a group were presenting and I was presenting, I wouldn't want to go, but every other year. I find that going annually, it's not enough of a change. It's not enough of a difference. It's not enough of whatever.
interesting.
From education sessions to the show floor. It's not a big enough gap to say, okay, usually that in-between year, for me, my experience is AV over IP is a thing. Great. The next year, it's like, okay, it really is a thing. And these things really do
Remember
work.
last year when we said it was a thing? Well, now it's a thing.
Now it really is a thing. Last year was theory. This year it's actually in the wild.
Yep.
And for me, every other year,
like you want to be
was a
wowed.
much
You want to see
better
something
schedule.
new, like real new every time you go there. You don't want to just be like, oh, didn't you talk about this last year? Like,
even the education sessions, I find that they repeat. And then about every couple of years, there's something a little bit different that piques your interest. Or maybe your personal interests have changed just enough where you're now interested in this other thing. I find the annual one tiresome. Now, I'm not one that I don't like being around 80,000 of my closest friends. I just,
Only
that's not my
50,000.
thing. So going and shaking hands and small talk and all that BS is just not my deal. And I understand that not everybody's the same, but is it possible that maybe a 2-year time frame is actually a better thing for these big, gigantic events, and then the off years are the little ones?
So
If you
I
can
will point out
coordinate
that I think
that, yeah.
one of the reasons, if you recall 15, 20 years ago, Infocom used to kind of travel around. It was in Anaheim. It was in New York.
Yep.
It was in,
Yeah,
I
it
think,
went all
Atlanta or
Chicago,
Dallas or
I
somewhere.
think, maybe.
Chicago, yeah.
Mhm.
Memphis, too.
They've
maybe?
kind of settled on the East Coast, West Coast thing. It's easier to plan, I think, long-term, logistics-wise. But, Jamie, I think to your point, be great to get some inside baseball on this stuff, but I would be willing to bet if they looked at if they were to open the kimono and show us the details on the people who attend, they would see that a lot of people do exactly what you're saying. I go every other year because it's closer to me. It's easier to get there. It's less cost. I can take a couple of days off and go down and do that. Go to Orlando or go to Vegas, but I don't go every year. I think it's probably a smaller number, especially in higher ed, who go every year. And I think your point is 100% valid. And related to that, I wonder, are we starting to see a similar thing with there's so many online or regional little one-day things, or it's easy for people to put that together. Are we starting to kind of get to saturation on that, where yes, I can take this, I can go log into this conference in March, I can log into one in June, log into one in August, and I'm starting to hear the same sort of things from people because it's not been long enough between them to get new information or new products.
yes.
Yeah, I think that, yes, I think the giant things are probably going to lessen, but I wonder if there's still a marketplace for them. I still see that there's a market for that kind of event.
But I think there's a different.
But there's a reason they
demographics
don't
too.
do the World Cup every year.
Yeah.
There's a reason they don't do the Olympics every year. Maybe this
Or
is
at
one of
all
those
now.
things.
And I think it does depend like where you are on your timeline within the technology industry. Like it means different things to you at different points in your career. You're just starting out, like the currency of the RU and its value before you could just go attend any webinar online and get that RU. There was a time where I had to go through when I was younger. I had to sign up for sessions, go through to amass those to keep my certifications, right? So there was a reason that I needed to be there. That's kind of all fell to the wayside now with all these virtualized events where everything's registered for an RU and I can amass these things online. So my true need to be there is lessened, right? And that's kind of the value of actually going. It's like, well, do I have to go do all that now? Now it's purely the other side, where the relationship piece of this and meeting with vendors and actually talking. But do we get into the same depth of conversation at a large show versus a small show? Can I do it and have a more targeted conversation with a regional, staff member from a manufacturer versus being there competing with 80,000 of Jamie's friends trying to have a conversation about the same black box with 15 network ports?
I think the only benefit that I see at the large ones when you go to a booth is that you are more likely to run into that one engineer, the one that will tell you everything you really need to know, and they're not a salesman, and you don't find those people at the regionals. They don't ship them in for those, but you can usually find them at the booth. Like, oh, your tag says engineer. What do you do? I make this thing. What do you think about it? 80% of it works.
Meet me at the bar across the street at 5:30, and I will tell you.
Take my name tag off, and I'll tell you.
But those are the ones, but you don't get those at the regionals, right? Those are all the sales, marketing, those folks.
I don't know. I get some pretty qualified people that are in the regional side, and I can get more specific questions answered. I feel.
It's because you're West Coast.
Yeah, you're special.
Sorry.
You're not flyover country.
I've wondered about something for a long time, kind of in this topic. When you're walking around the show floor and whatever show, and you see this big group of people all wearing the same shirt being toured around by this one guy wearing a different shirt at a manufacturer's booth. What is the value in that? Just, hey, by the way, sales team, you have to sell 50,000 of these boxes or you're all fired. I mean, is that the value? Like, what are they getting from that booth tour?
Usually
I've been part of those tours.
Like,
I've been part of those tours as an engineer. When I was with an integrator, we sent 5-6 of our engineers plus some salespeoples too. Mm-hmm. So there were sales there, but primarily it was the engineering group getting questions answered by the rep from the engineers.
But it's so loud, you can't communicate, and people are in the back. I've been with one of those groups, like, the integrator said, come with us and tour the booth. I'm like, okay. Yeah. And the whole time it's overstimulus.
Do you
I don't
need
learn
to
anything.
Be there for that same outcome? Like, outside of like the noise and like your ears ringing later on after the fact, but like the actual quality of the information you were receiving from there, could that not be done through some other modality?
That could be done through a phone call. Yeah. A phone call.
I usually slide into those groups to get whatever swag is there. Or if it's after 3 o'clock.
See, there you go.
Yeah. I'm that guy. I'm like,
or the
what
event ticket.
Booth tour.
I need the event ticket, right?
I've won the Apple TV before. So.
I'm the guy that has never understood swag. Like, I don't want to carry all that crap around.
I want T-shirts.
I'm very particular. But usually those groups get the good stuff, right? Not just the random crap. I mean, it's stuff that I actually use. Like, that's
I always feel like they should do it differently. Like, you should automatically be enrolled in everybody's email list, and your goal is to get off the list by going through the tour.
I like that.
Where you go and like, if you go and get scanned, your email comes out, so you're
like,
not.
Oh, we don't have to send you information because you're here. We'll tell you about it.
You have a need. Like, I have got to get through this show floor because
that actually makes a lot of sense, Mark.
I just put a Sharpie through it. So that you have to pull up the little tag far enough for them to scan it?
Well, they're scanning to get your stuff, but like I want them to scan to remove it.
Then you have the ninja scanners that like just want to scan people just as you're like walking by in the aisle, kind of like the old perfume people.
Yeah,
they're
not supposed to do that, but you're right. They'll sneak up and grab you.
So I just took a Sharpie and run it across the front so that you actually have to like pull it up just a little bit for it to scan correctly.
There you go. Okay. Well,
so Justin, you brought up something when we were kind of talking about various topics to discuss in this episode, as to like, why do the manufacturer, from a manufacturing point, why are they going? They're not going to talk about their newest product, because you can get that from their website, or you can get that from a webinar, you can get that from a sales call, or 10 years ago, or it was the sales rep traveling around with a whole bunch of stuff, and they'd show it off and demo it for you. So they're not there to show off their newest, widget or magical box with blinking lights on it. You said that that they're there specifically for like that kind of like that exposure and other things were like related to that.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten mixed, experiences on the show floor, and I've gotten more negative ones than positive ones. So that's why I limit my hours on the show floor. And that's just me though.
I think from a manufacturer though, they want to gauge interest. That's their metric, right? Like, is this thing like, are people jazzed about this or not? Like, we put all this R&D into this thing, and we're soft launching it at whatever event it's going to be. Are people coming up and asking you about it, or are they like, whatever? So it's like, well, maybe we need to cancel that order for like 14 crates of these things coming in. Like, there's nobody knowing. There's no interest in this.
I mean, if I was wearing a manufacturer shirt, I would have a hard time trying to figure that out, because when you're talking to these people, they're mostly worried about, I've got an appointment coming up in 10 minutes I got to be at, and then I got to be over here. Then, I'm late for this. And then this is happening. And then I can't believe this happened at home while I was here. Everybody just seems so distracted. I don't know what the actual value of information is, right?
This is kind of like that reverse engineering thing, right? Like, you're often shown products to then make problems for them to solve. Like, they're finding out, like, do you have a problem that this would solve? Yes or no? And it's just shotgun approach, right? Like, the more people we can run through this booth, the more we can gather, like, okay, well, I guess this thing we spent all this money on is solving some problem for this demographic.
I've never been asked that.
You've never been asked if you have a problem for this thing to solve?
No.
Oh my God.
No, of all, it's more of like a sales approach. Like, hey, look at this cool thing. I'm like, it's a touch panel.
All different walks of manufacturers. Great. Like, do you have, would this help you do something? And it's like, let me think about it. Maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I agree with both of you. I think for the my experience with that is more like Justin's. Like, hey, look at this nifty whiz bang that the manufacturer would think would fit into higher ed in this regards. And that's when I usually say, well, I'm not sure that's solving any problems for me. And that's when Mark's conversation starts. Mm-hmm. It's like, and then they say, hey, well, what problems can we solve? Oh, we'll take that back to our engineers. Whether it ever does or not, who knows? But it usually starts the sales way, but ends in the conversation of, well, that's why you didn't want it.
I guess my problem is that when I'm actually having a one-on-one conversation with someone in the booth, that same conversation would be much more valuable without all of the external distractions of whatever else is going on. And that's kind of my point, is the value of that conversation. Call me after the show on the phone and let's talk about this in more detail so I can focus and you can focus as well and actually answer my questions correctly.
Is there a chance that we're all just too old and jaded in this thing to
maybe
be at like, remember what it was when you first went, when you showed up and you're like, wow, like your first big trade show, like,
yep.
And like the
it was
value of
amazeballs.
It was amazeballs for the younger demographic, people who are early in their career. Like, I love going to a show if somebody, it's their first time. I'm like, oh, this is going to be sweet. Wait, I'm going to blow your mind. I'm going to show you this and this.
Yeah.
And like that, you're excited, right? And like, if nothing else, the industry needs it for that. Like, you need to be able to excite the younger people to come in and like be a part of this
Christmas morning, circus. 10 years old, getting my first Nintendo, right? It was that kind of excitement. And now it's a lot of it, I'll be honest with you.
Get off my lawn.
It's a little bit of that, get off my lawn, but it's also a little bit of things have turned into quite a black box scenario. It's a lot of these things do the same thing.
Yeah,
and it's just a lot of
deep in the hole from somebody coming at it for the first time. They're like, man, I didn't even realize you could do this stuff. Like, when you show somebody who's never been to the show, who maybe have never even been to a technology conference, you start getting in it, they're like, this is magic. Like, you're literally showing me voodoo in real time. Like, they've never seen it. And so I think to keep the lifeblood alive, there is a need to have trade shows to keep the excitement. But I don't know, for the people who are in the trenches doing their thing day in and day out, outside of like learning something new that it can only be achieved at the show, it's hard to balance that.
I learn something new every time I go to the show. Now, it's just most of the time not on the show
hand
floor.
Signals to a waiter.
Yeah, that's a behind the scenes story. Yeah, we'll tell that story live in person.
Yeah, so I'm forced to be here for 2 more hours.
Come out to eat with us in Vegas, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about.
I was surprised we got across the street after that one.
That was bad. My bad.
We made it out.
Still feel bad
I'll
for
just
that
say real
one.
quick. I mean, it sounds like the four of you are. Maybe Larry's hard to read, but at least three of you are kind of down on the idea of trade shows and are like, hey, I can get this information somewhere else. I don't need it. I'm 100% on board. I'll go every year.
I'm on your
That's-
side, Chris.
I like
gotta
That's
be
our vacation.
Bring them.
More trade shows coming, people. Thanks for putting up with yet another episode of AV SuperFriends On Topic. You can contact us with questions, topic ideas, or general complaints at avsuperfriends.com.
Nice work, everyone. Sharp broadcast. Really good. Everyone on the floor as well. Really a lot of hustle. I liked it.
The opinions expressed by the AV SuperFriends are solely those of the individuals and do not represent their respective institutions, organizations, companies, or clients.